only the most important of our lives, it is one of the most important in the life of our nation.
Together we will restore vision, strength, competence, and we're going to have a thing called common sense.
A president who leads and listens, who is realistic, practical, and has common sense.
No nation will question our power. No enemy will doubt our might.
That we strengthen, not abdicate, our global leadership.
An economy the likes of which no nation had ever seen. China, we were beating them.
That America, not China, wins the competition for the 21st century.
Our borders will be totally secure. Our economy will soar. We will return law and order to our streets.
After decades in law enforcement, I know the importance of safety and security, especially at our border. Last year, Joe and I brought together Democrats and conservative Republicans to write the strongest border bill in decades.
We want people to come into our country, but they have to come into our country legally.
We can create an earned pathway to citizenship and secure our border.
I tell you this, we want our hostages back, and they better be back before I assume office, or you will be paying a very big price.
I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself.
And now Iran is very close to having a nuclear weapon.
I will never hesitate to take whatever action is necessary to defend our forces and our interests against Iran and Iran-backed terrorists.
We gave our military almost $800 billion.
As Commander-in-Chief, I will ensure America always has the strongest, most lethal fighting force in the world.
America is on the cusp of a new golden age.
I will make sure that we lead the world into the future.
Just like our ancestors, we must now come together.
It is now our turn to do what generations before us have done.
We will press forward, and together we will win.
We are charting a new way forward. Forward.
Since when does the vice president have what sounds like a southern accent?
Better thank a union member for sick leave. You better thank a union member for paid leave. And you all helped us win in 2020, and we're going to do it again in 2024.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well,
I mean, this is...
she was talking about unions in Detroit using one tone of voice.
Is this something that
same
you think...
line.
Okay, Peter.
That she used the same line in Pittsburgh, and it sounded like she at least had some kind of a southern drawl.
I mean, do you hear the question that you're... I mean, do you think Americans seriously think that this is an important question? They care... You know what they care about? They care about the economy. They care about lowering costs. They care about health care. That's what Americans care about.
So
that's what they want to hear.
This is something...
They care about, your colleague just asked me about, what basically we talked about, went back and forth about democracy and freedom. That's what they care about. I'm not even going to entertain some question about the president. It's just, hearing it sounds so ridiculous.
Well, but hearing it is...
The question, I'm talking about the question is just insane.
Is that how she talks in meetings here?
I'm just...
And good Friday to you all. It is the internet. We talk about it. This is News from the Pew. I am your host, Rick Barrett, the Armed Catholic. And as always, with me is the godfather of Catholic alternative media, the one and only Steve Cunningham. Lou, thank you for joining me again. We just talked an hour ago. Glad to have you back on. Happy to have everybody here on this Friday afternoon for everyone. Mr. Cunningham, how are you?
This I was trying to think of something funny.
A man of many words, as you can see.
Yeah, he's speechless.
Yes, that's pretty much how.
I'm just thankful to be in your presence.
Yeah, yes. So, folks, let's get right to it. Our first story of the day is let's talk a little bit about what do you want to start with, Steve?
I mean, there's not that much that went on this week.
It's been a quiet week. That's why there's nothing headline worthy at this point.
It's more like it's more like a Clown Planet week than a big
Yeah.
news drop week, because I have a lot on the share screens talking about like the kids that just went to the 4 years ago that went down with not seeing anybody's mouth move for about a year and a half. They're now in school and they're all screwed up. You know,
Yeah.
Speaking of schools and screwed up, we can go right for there if you want to go there.
Let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it. I mean, that's probably a good, better place than to start.
Well, this thing is even made overseas. I don't have the whole thing down. I sent this to you. Did you watch it?
Probably not.
So this is from the United Kingdom, Great Britain News, and they're out there. The lady on the right really goes after Nana, I guess her name is Nana, whatever.
Yeah.
And at the end is basically calling for, because the guy, her host asked her, would you want the death penalty for knives here in England, in London? And because she brings up the Georges may seek the death penalty for the dad, because they bring up the dad and the whole story with that thing down, what's going on down there as a 14-year-old kid, I think it is. And we charged his dad with the second degree.
Well, they're following the same pattern that they followed in Michigan.
Yeah.
Where they're trying to make anybody, the parents of children, accessories to it.
And this is a lawyer. She talks about the tradition of doing this, which goes all the way back to 2 years ago, right?
Hey, text and tradition. What do you want us to tell you? Text and tradition.
Shirley brings up, this got a long time going back, all the way back to 2022.
Yep. Long history. Long time. Long history.
But yeah, it was a round table discussion in London. So you hear these people who live in a gun-free nation, is the right term for this. Is England is a nation, a country unlike ours, but they banned weapons, they banned guns, so they only have knives.
You only have knives to get stabbed with now,
right? And that's what she bring up at the end here is she's telling everyone, you know what? If you get caught with a knife, I'm for the death penalty. And everyone at the table basically looks at each other going, holy cow.
You're not supposed to say that part out loud. Shut up. Don't say it.
Unrelated news, same idea. The NFL started yesterday. Was it NFL started yesterday?
It was last night, yeah.
Eagles were down in Brazil. Don't ask me why. And
I don't get any of that stuff. I really don't. I don't get how they're trying to expand. Anyway, you were saying.
Well, it's the whole globalism thing. It's everything is we're already got centralization out the wazoo. Why not be global thing? Which it was funny. Somebody had a great line. Was it the Olympics? Yeah, it was the Olympics. It was the dude that quit. The dude that got the Rona after he finished second. It just what happens when you get the Rona is when you finish second or third, when you're supposed to be the favorite after you act like an idiot running out, it just comes on. It's really
yeah.
It's like you push a lever,
and that was it, man.
It comes with the jab. You hit over here, you get jabbed here, you go activate. Yep. So he mentions about the who was it? Whoever won the NBA championship was, no, you weren't world champions. You didn't beat everyone in the world. And I'm so that's a real good point, because everyone's in Major League world champs, NFL world champs, everything's world. If the world was just the United States, is the world champs. And so they're trying to expand. They've been doing it in England for years, which they don't care because they got football. They got
they only care about Manchester United and Liverpool and all that stuff. It was crazy during the lockdowns. They didn't care about that, but then once they started canceling football matches, then they were protesting in the streets and all of these other things. It was actually quite pathetic. And I've already talked about how pathetic the men are on social media. They're like, oh, here's my 2 weeks, and oh, I'm getting ready for Sundays, and I'm doing all this. You're a bunch of pathetic beta males who are doing all this stuff. Like, guys, the NFL does not give a rip about you. That's why they're playing in Brazil. That's why they're playing in London. They're expanding the base because they don't care. I mean, did you see the James O'Keefe? We should talk about that. The James O'Keefe report, where he Whitlock covered this last night. O'Keefe busted the director of digital content for the Washington Commanders, formerly the Redskins, and he was caught on video. Which I don't know. O'Keefe must get like 10 out of 10s to go on these dates with these guys, because these dudes are just spilling the beans. Which, guys, real quick, if a 10 out of 10 is asking you on a date, she's probably a spy. But the fact, sorry, we're not all Chads. But the fact is, he said that the NFL players are made up of religious country boys or dumb city boys, dumb inner city blacks, and that the NFL pays lip service to the DEI stuff because they can afford to do so. That they're really not, and that the NFL is homophobic and all this other kind of stuff. Like, the people in charge of these franchises hate you. They despise every single one of you, and you give them your money, your life, your energy, and it's just I cannot stand it. It doesn't, like, if you enjoy watching college football or NFL football, I'm not a huge, I don't watch the NFL anymore. I watch some college football. I get it if you want to enjoy it, but most men now just devote their life to it. And it's just 100% sad. As you can tell, I just went on a Cunningham rant here, but don't talk to me about the NFL, because most of you beta boys you make me so angry when I watch you give your life and money and time to an organization that does not care about you.
Well, so I mean, you're in Texas. You see that, especially in high school. I mean,
dude, my town, and my fault. I didn't participate in the local process here, so I lose 3 points from Steve. They approved a $500 million or a multi-million-dollar project for the high school. Mm-hmm. We're gonna have one of the nicest high schools in the state, and we're a tiny, tiny, tiny town that I don't even think is that good in football. But yet we're gonna have this massive complex that Division III schools can't even afford. Anyway,
and now they're doing the NIH, the name, image, and likeness stuff, and the NIL. So they're even high schoolers doing it. Here they did it. Charlotte did a report talking about how public schools need to get on board with this, because the private schools are going to rip everybody out, and they're going to have these mega schools because they're actually, they pay the high school players. Going, holy cow! I'm watching this going, really? How do you? I mean, we got millionaire high school kids. That's going to go well. That's but I mean, yeah. I mean, down here it's a religion. You go to a college, people we had the Eucharistic Congress last week here. 15,000 people said to show up, with mostly Hispanics, because right when kickoff came, you saw the crowd. The Anglos weren't as popular anymore, because Clemson, Georgia kicked off at noon. And then you had, I can't remember who played after that. I just remember that was that everyone was talking about. I saw some Gamecock shirts walking around, but you didn't see that in the afternoon sessions when kickoff was around. But no, this story here was just funny, because they're upset about the crime rate in Sao Paulo, and it brings up the whole idea is, well, what about Philadelphia? And it talked about how these guys said, don't go outside, because even as simple as walking down the street with your phone in hand, you might get mugged. And then here's the unpopular stats. Sao Paulo, 4.2 murders for every 100,000, but in Philly, it's 26.1 per 100,000. And he mentioned all that, starting the highest crime rates of NOLA, Baltimore. I mean, Baltimore. Just think Baltimore, Chicago, Cleveland, all these guys. I mean, you're downtown. It's, even when I was leaving the convention center after the Congress, I was thinking, just get out of the city. I mean, Charlotte's not that bad, not on that list, but
dude, I'm worried about going to the conference next year in Georgia, because it's going to be in Atlanta.
Then you'll be on the outskirts of it. If you were downtown, it was the old joke of, if you're on it, someone says, "Hey, where are you at?" I'm on MLK. Run, because MLK in any big city is notoriously
being light speed through that sucker.
Oh yeah, I used to joke with people when I was Ubering in Denver. One of the roads to get off I-70 ran parallel to I-70, take it right downtown, was MLK. And I would tell the guys, especially if they're from Chicago, "Hey man, I'm getting off the interstate. We're going to get there quicker." "Oh, great, thank you. I'll let whatever. I'm taking MLK. You stay in the traffic." I go, "Don't worry. There. This isn't that MLK, but this actually has flowers." And it was. They were like, "Wow, I could live on this one." So yeah, the conference, Atlanta conference. What he's talking about is Atlanta's having a Eucharistic Congress finally again, and it's on the outskirts. I think it's not Peachtree, but I went to it 13, 12, 11, 10 years ago, something like that. Unless they changed the venue, it wasn't in downtown. So you're a safe bet. Just don't get don't get a hotel downtown.
Yeah, right. No, thank you.
But the whole thing with there was Tom Woods had a video out on why is public schools so bad, and the gist of it, he had this teacher. He was in Florida, and oh man, what was it? I don't know the stages in Florida. It was like a stage 1, wherever that is. I think it was. And he was saying that they do not expel kids anymore. Like when I'm back in the Stone Age, when I went to high school, my first one, Broome. I remember a buddy of mine that I bowled against. He got jumped in the bathroom and came out really bad, gang related. This was little outside cow pens. We're not talking big urban big city here. And I went back a couple years later, and that looks like what the joke about schools is, a penitentiary. They had these big fences.
If you ask somebody from another country to come in and compare a prison to a school, they wouldn't be able to tell the difference from afar.
No, yeah, exactly. When after my all of us, we ended up transferring to Spartanburg High, we didn't have cops. There was no cops at that school. And the reason why is because everybody that was pretty much a guy played ball. And I remember this dude. He was like 6'5", Jack Diesel, standing in the hallway, and his girlfriend put a knife up to his neck. This in the middle of the hallway. We're like waiting for the bell to ring, and he looked over at coach and goes, "I ain't doing anything." He didn't raise an arm, and because all the coaches patrolled the hallways. If you screwed up or something, you weren't playing that weekend, that day, whatever. So none of the guys ever acted up. Actually, you backed up each other. You were like, "Hey man, don't do that." Nothing like I didn't worry one bit. And now you see the schools. They had a report. I think we talked about this a couple weeks ago. I know here they had a story on local news about don't buy backpacks that have metal in it, and don't bring in lunch boxes that have metal, because it was setting off false positives in the metal detectors. Yep. So these guys are literally walking in. It looked like you said, a prison. You go into a football game anymore, you get the TSA approach, pat downs, all the whole 9 yards. Walking, you can't. What kind of thing is it that you have to? You walk into a school with a metal detector, anyways. And when I was there, it was bad enough that
when I was coaching
about a daycare
in Dallas,
it wasn't that big.
In Dallas, when I coached, one of our responsibilities was to be on the metal detectors every morning. Or we used to rotate. So I used to do metal detection duty in the cafeteria where everybody was coming in. So I used to check backpacks, and I used to do all these other kinds of things for weapons and knives and all that other stuff. I've been there. I've done it.
It was because when you brought that up, it made me think of these. Did you have these guys that used to wear like the Walmart jackets in school? It was just one of those cliques. We had the hippies, the guys that played ball, and these other guys were just one dude. I'll never forget. He wore just weird stuff, but he'd always have a chain, like a dog chain, and he would wear, it was a yellow one. So instead of like a metal chain, he had a yellow colored plastic chain that we'd hang just about yay long. I mean, if you wanted to hook somebody with it, you could. But you just walk all. You can't do that obviously right now. But
no,
I mean, the only time we saw a metal detector was we were playing ball against was it Chester, and we had to go through the metal detectors. It was my junior college years. And it was fun. I thought it was fun because the opponent, they sat right behind us, and they knew how to talk smack. I thought it was fun. I mean, we were guys, but we played. I mean, I remember getting a gun pulled out of me in the playground. I mean, just someone called a foul, and the guy goes, "We really think it?" And I remember there's a teammate, another guy on the guy. He pulled a 9mm on the dude. Like, all right, that's how we're going to roll today. All right, no fouls now. It's just. Nobody got shot, but it's like, okay, you just toss the smack, have some fun. But I think they were packing, obviously. It's just you didn't think about it while you were playing.
Well, I mean, there were many, coaching football in Central Dallas, I have a lot of stories of situations that came up, and lots at the field, and
we didn't have senior day because myself and another guy, Brad, I forget his last name, we were the only two pigmentally challenged guys as seniors, and we were the only ones under the age of 20. We were both 17, and the rest of the guys were getting GEDs. They were 20. We were number 2 in the state because we were pretty much a small college team. And the guy we bailed out that was in front of me, Chuck Boozer, I'll never forget him, had grilled gold teeth, and he was a convicted. They charged him for attempted murder on the Boiling Springs quarterback. Phil Petty ended up going to South Carolina to play for 4 years, but he apparently told him, "So you do that again." I remember him telling Phil on the court, "You do that again, they're going to find you in a ditch somewhere." Like, Chucky, calm down, dude. Chucky. I was friends with all these guys, but back then you did get expelled. Now apparently you don't get expelled, so these guys are still in. I mean, the guy down in Georgia, you know the story more than I do. That he was on the list. Say the line. He was on the line and all that jazz. Writing out warnings that he was going to go show up at school and then say, I got hacked or something like that. And I guess no one believed and all that. And then second day, I guess he shows up and pulls this off.
Yep. Well, there's a lot to go there. I did a intensely longer video than I wanted to this morning on Catholics responding to gun violence, and the fact that you have Catholics who are talking about our left, our Catholics who find themselves on the political left using this situation once again to stand on the bodies of dead children because they don't talk about gun control every weekend when men slaughter each other in Chicago and Baltimore and Detroit and the list that we have out of there. Mouths are silent, but as soon as a couple white kids get killed, now all of a sudden they're like, we got to ban everything. We got to stop this. It's like, you're blatantly racist if you only care about it when the white kids are getting murdered in the school. And I know, sorry, not a controversial position, but you stand on the bodies of dead kids, which you can't say that. Well, then why aren't you talking about gun control every single weekend when young men who are coming from broken homes are murdering each other in the streets? You're dead silent. I mean, but as soon as it's a kid in the suburb, now you're all acting like Maude Simpson. Think about their children and crying and doing. It's all false tears. It's all nonsense, and it's all to push a political agenda.
You bring up the NFL. The Chicago Bears moved Soldier Stadium.
They got him
out.
It
was so bad downtown.
Yep. Yeah. It's just like the Detroit Pistons don't play in Detroit. They play in Auburn Hills because they were like, yeah, we getting out of here. They're like the guys in Scary Movie. They're like, black people are dead. We getting the blank out of here. And so they were just
yeah. And then you bring up the, all these lefties who are pro-aborts. All of a sudden we care about these kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so that's I always think about that. I would always love to ask one of these guys. They're like, Kamala, you don't like guns. Okay, if the abortionist would shoot the baby in the head, where do you stand?
I know Kelsey Grammer got into a little bit of hot water a couple years back because he wore a shirt that said that. It's like, if you use the 357 to kill babies, would you be for gun control? And so it was
I can imagine
like, is Kelsey Grammer conservative? And yeah.
He's like, so what is it? I mean, come on, what is it? You got
Kelsey Grammer's got.
You had to do that.
Kelsey Grammer's got blank U money. He don't care about any, but he ain't getting canceled for that, so he can say whatever he wants.
But never let crisis go to waste.
They feign their concern, and now the White House, bodies aren't even cold. We got to ban assault weapons. All right. What about I talked about this morning. What about, because banning guns is not going to protect kids. And I know people are not going to like me saying that. They're like, if we just ban the guns, and kids are going to be safe. Well, I mentioned this morning, so you guys know where it's coming from. The largest massacre of children ever was in 1927 in Michigan, the Bath School bombing. It was in 1927, and it killed 38 school children and 5 adults. And that was in 1927 without a gun. So guess what? You can ban guns all you want. We're in a fallen world, which means men of evil intent will do it. Now, let me ask, if these kids who died tragically in Georgia, if they were knifed like they are in Great Britain, which has gun control, would you care? You probably wouldn't, and it probably wouldn't even make the news.
No, well, that's the thing with the GP guys. They have knifing problems, and they're talking about it. But how do you get rid of all the knives then? I mean, there's probably more knives out there than guns. Even say here, probably more.
The crazy thing is in Britain, they're like, you can't have a steak knife.
No,
you can't even have. You barely have to ask permission for a butter. You can't even have a spork, and yet these people are still getting knifed. So
it's amazing how criminals do not obey the laws.
Shocking.
I don't understand. I had a guy, he's a former guy, he thinks we're monkeys and all this. I actually asked that all the time to him. So can you name me this 10 years ago, name me a criminal that obeys the law? It's that meme when the guy knocks on the door and goes, well, I guess we can't go in here. They're masked up and they got their arm to the teeth.
Yeah. And people, Western society has been under this dome of safety and prosperity since the 50s. No wars that they've had to, massively been involved with. Crime has been very, prosperity abound. And so you all think this is the normal thing. While you look at places and you put your noses down at places like Somalia, Ghana, Rwanda, all these other places. Oh, we would never have that. Yeah, guess what, folks? Your bubble is about to burst with the amount of illegal immigrants, criminal aliens that are coming in, the destabilization of the law and order system, the high trust society that you're used to, it's going away. And it's going away pretty quickly.
I was thinking Aurora right off the bat. When I would drive and do Uber, I avoided Aurora then. Like it was, third world country. You didn't want to go in Aurora. That lives there. You didn't want to do anything about it. Well, obviously, I mean, you had that. It was not even the shooter that the Batman movie theaters thing was there and all that. And you got everyone talking about Columbine. I actually had to drive somebody. She wanted to see Columbine as like a tour. I was a tour guide. I go, here's Columbine. I didn't live too far from it. But here's whoops. I thought I forgot to add it on. This people were upset about because you have to go after the states because they keep on saying we got to get rid of the Second Amendment in Georgia. No state permit required to purchase, no firearm registration, no assault weapon law, no magazine, blah, 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 no owner license, no permit required. Good. Hey, that's called federalism again. Now, if you're in commie land, California, you want to do something like that? Huh?
Which state leads this union in mass shootings? It's California.
Yeah. With
like 26, according to the congressional report, not the nonsensical gun violence archives and all these other stupid pro-gun outlets that are funded. 26 mass shootings in California. The second one is Texas at 13. At 13. Mm-hmm. So, like Steve said, doesn't matter. You can have all the gun control you want. It means nothing. Nothing.
There's something about it. Was it the last one, a southern one too? It seems like they're trying to target us in the South for stuff like this.
Let's not talk about the fact that there is a mass casualty event in a swing state a week before the only presidential debate that's going to take place, because Kamala's campaign is tanking faster than the Titanic after the water went over the front bow. So to quote Austin Powers, now we got to start the Russian collusion thing, which tanked a couple of alternative news outlets, and now we have a mass casualty event in a white suburban school in Georgia, which now they get to run on. Because what are the two things, Steve, that Kamala and the Dems got to run on? Guns and killing babies. That's the only two things that they can galvanize their base on. And shockingly enough, we had an event. It's been quiet, and all of a sudden now we have an event.
We got boring for a week. Never let a crisis go to waste. Have you ever read Dr. Wood's book? Was it 33 questions you're not supposed to ask or something like that?
No.
He has a section on as a gun chapter. He talked about how people say, "Oh, it's wild." It was the Wild West. Really, is what that wild. That's the thing of it. Because everyone talks about it's like the Wild West out there. Because if you listen to TV, you think like there's these shootings every day. I think there's supposed to be one in 10 minutes. I can't believe this is all happening. Well, let's pretend that this is one gigantic blob of land again. You had one event, and what was the last one? A year or so ago. So how many of these that they focus on? One, maybe. How many schools? Let's do the math, and it's a very small number. So but they act like, oh, this is everywhere. It's happening. How come it's so often? It doesn't happen that often like that. I mean,
Nope,
you turn on local news, you get gangbangers downtown or something happens like this. There's a shooting that is always not the best people in the world, kind in a sense. But these school shootings ain't. But it's not what the media tells you. Like kind of like running people dropping in the streets. Look at it. Be afraid. It's the fear porn that they push all this. But anyway, he brings up one of the things he says. He goes, everybody was packed to the gills. When you watch the movie, they got it. They're walking around with it. It's kind of like a shark, letting they don't come after somebody that they could get hurt with. And one thing he brings up, he goes, moral men were carrying back then. People with morals were carrying back then. And
people operated with a code back then.
Do what?
Yep. People operated with a code back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's when you actually had a culture of life more than today, which people can argue all about, but I can argue there would be more today. And the fact is, people, religion had more of an influence and an impact on the public discourse. So when people want to say we're so much better off today,
I think he said a whole decade of someplace. I can't remember what city it was. It was the same city. Maybe it was say like Chicago. A whole decade in the 1820s or whatever equaled one weekend in modern day, wherever it was, say Chicago. Get the book, we'll look at it, you'll see it. But yeah, they went to the whole decade equaled one weekend for modern times. Because again, you mentioned it, modernity and you can bring it all the way back to the fall, but French Revolution, definitely Luther, obviously, the French Revolution after that, and then out of here.
Yeah, and it's we are so caught up in the smoke screen of they always want to use the Adams quote. This country is for good and just and moral people, and that's what the fabled Constitution does, and it protects us, and we're Judeo-Christian values and a Christian nation. Folks, we are not in any way, shape, or form that, because we have no culture of life. We do not respect life, and without that respect, of course, you're not upset. And Steve said this before. You're not upset when a baby at conception is murdered in the womb, but you're upset when a 14-year-old kid is. They're both children, and you murdered both, and both of them are murdered. Yet one you celebrate, and one you do not.
I like that you brought up the Treaty of Paris, which calls each state a country. And
yeah,
and to be treated like that. And the Great Britain wanted to, by the way, it's off topic. England at that time did not want to work with ambassadors from this little small fraction that they were going to be like the Articles of Confederation. But they wanted to work with the individual states because they looked at them as the traditional name of state as country. We're going to work directly with North Carolina. We don't want to work with the group thing. That's just like a stepping away. We want to work directly with them. You'll probably it was like they didn't trust the centralized unit. They wanted to work with direct individual states, which again, traditionally the word state means country, which we got to get back to that, because we end a lot of these problems because everything must be centralized. What did I say today? There was something they wanted to bring back of the centralization again with the gun thing too. I mean, Kamala, hey, we're going to work on this. We're going to do this. Or the White House thing. We got to ban assault weapons. That's DOA. That's, Congress shall not. That's Congress shall not. You have absolute zero authority. If Georgia wants to do it, fine. Georgia can do it. If Georgia wants to have a howitzer in the middle, Georgia can give each citizen a howitzer in the middle. That's DC to say that. McClanahan has a great line. No, shut up.
Yeah. It's kind of like the same attitude you should have when the police come, and if you get if you're in a defensive view situation, the lawyer's going to tell you to do one thing: shut up, just shut up. Don't say a word.
It's just comical with the whole Georgia, because I guess the feds came in before Lincoln. There was a rule on the Georgia ballot: if a Fed came into the state of Georgia uninvited, it came in on his own, it was the death penalty for the Fed. Could you imagine? Just thinking about that one. An FBI guy comes down into Georgia, and he wasn't around there, but say like today, back in the 1820s, he's a dead man if he didn't get invited in. Because why? You are an invader to your country. It's a foreign entity that just came in. Just like when Andrew Jackson tried to invade South Carolina for doing the tax thing. They did not like that. Why did Virginia enter Lincoln's War? You invaded them to get through to beat up other. They did not like that back then. Now today we just don't care.
Yeah. Oh no, we want the federal monies. So feds, come on in. You know, do what you're gonna do so we can keep that federal gravy train coming. So it's,
by the way, anybody says it's over like that, then just like I use the expression, it's like oh, you must be for pro-trans. So if you can transition from a guy to a girl, it's over. You're a girl now. That's the same mindset. You can't transition back. We can transition back if we want to, if we get people involved in doing things and just get activated in that way. Yeah, give it a couple, maybe a decade or so. You can fix this. You can fix that mindset real quick. But if we want to or not, if not, then they got a meeting with the United Nations soon. We'll be a globalist thing in a minute, and not too far off. DC would be the least of our problems. You can be begging for the centralized government in about a decade.
It's either going to be that, or it's going to be radical balkanization that'll take place, where the coast will split off. West Coast will become part of China. East Coast, the upper part of the East Coast will become part of the Euro and all the other things. Appalachia and around Appalachia will probably go its own way, because you really can't force the people in Appalachia to do anything, and so forth. But we're getting a little into the weeds. We'll move into our next part. We're 36 minutes in. We're kind of just ranting at this point about different folks. There's not a lot. There is no like significant stories. I know there's one breaking news thing, if you want to call it breaking news, here on this show. Trump's court date was supposed to be next week, or a week after the 18th or whatever. It's been postponed until after the election up in New York. So, take with that what you will.
Well, I mean, you did have this one big one that came out. Was it Putin endorsing Kamala?
That's right. Which all the people who were pro-Russian.
Kamala. And I didn't know, was I supposed to call him up and say, thank you very much, I appreciate it. But he endorsed Kamala. I have a feeling, I don't know. I don't know exactly what to say about that. I don't know if I'm insulted or he did me a favor. But we have to get.
I'm reaching.
I mean, good for that. Yeah, let them do that. So
we did take a plane, I think. Didn't we take the Venezuelan plane?
No, I don't know anything about the Venezuelan plane.
Welcome back to the breaking news. Some exclusive live pictures that we're showing you right now of the seized plane belonging to Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro. Maduro, we should note, is not on board, but the plane was seized by officials for violating U.S. sanctions. CNN's Kylie Atwood joins me now. Kylie, this is pretty extraordinary. This does not happen, obviously, every day, where U.S. authorities go in and seize the plane of a head of state. But that is essentially what's happened this morning. Can you break this down for us?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the plane of Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, is now in the hands of the United States. As you can see there, those images demonstrate that it has just landed in Florida. It was seized by U.S. authorities in the Dominican Republic. That is according to multiple U.S. officials who spoke with our colleague Priscilla Alvarez about this. And how this all came to fruition, Jim, is that this plane was in the Dominican Republic in recent months. We don't know exactly why, but that presented the opportunity for U.S. authorities to work with authorities in the Dominican Republic to actually make up a plan and seize the plane. And just to give folks context, this plane is effectively the Air Force One of Venezuela. This is a plane that cost about $13 million, the U.S. estimates. It's been used by Maduro to travel around the world, to make visits, to see other world leaders and the like. It's now in the hands of the U.S. government. It's an extraordinary move. The U.S. has for years been trying to disrupt the flow of goods and finances, money going into Venezuela. For example, they have disrupted luxury cars going into the country. But we should note that this is just such a bold move because, according to one of those U.S. officials who spoke with our colleague, this is unheard of and sends a signal that no one is out of the reach of U.S. sanctions. So they clearly had their eye on this plane for a while that was being used by the president of Venezuela, and now it is in U.S. custody. Now, the process here is that now that it is in the United States, Venezuela can petition for the plane, so we'll watch and see what happens there. But also, the United States can collect evidence from the plane. We just saw some folks heading into the plane, U.S. authorities heading in there with what appeared to be a recording device. They'll be able.
En homenaje a ustedes, en agradecimiento a ustedes, voy a decretar el adelanto de la Navidad para el 1 de octubre. ¡Arranca la Navidad!
If you don't know, he said Christmas is now the 1st of October, 1st of September.
I mean, sure, whatever. I mean, whatever, buddy. There's nothing to celebrate Christmas in October for, like in Venezuela. Do you get an extra rat that day to eat? I don't know. It's kind of crazy in that point. But
well, the job market stuff came out. Did you see that?
Yeah, let's take a look.
New data yesterday says job openings crashed by 500,000 jobs, hitting the worst level since 2021, right before Joe Biden and Cackles unleashed inflation upon a sleeping republic. Meanwhile, layoffs soared to 1.8 million, dominated by leisure and hospitality as the American consumer folds up shop to staycation their way through the Biden-Harris miracle. This brings job openings to just 7.7 million. For perspective, there were 12 million job openings just 2.5 years ago. So around about 4.5 million jobs have evaporated. And while there were 2 jobs per unemployed worker back then, now it's just 1.1. In fact, if we take the more realistic U6 unemployment number, that's closer to 6 openings per 10 unemployed workers. This latest number was a big miss to Wall Street expectations. In fact, it was worse than the most pessimistic prediction, suggesting that either Wall Street is really bad at estimating jobs or the numbers are cooked. Given the previous month was also revised down by roughly 200,000, revised a month late when media is not paying attention, it argues for some very creative accounting over at the Bureau of Labor Statistics, where democracy really does die in darkness. The U.S. economy now has the lowest number of job openings since January of 2021. Back when half the country was still in lockdown, since Democrat governors were waiting for Joe Biden to take over before declaring the pandemic over. The collapse was particularly dramatic in construction. Zero Hedge called it free fall, with job openings dropping in half from 450,000 to just 248 in the last 6 months. That is driven partly by a collapse in manufacturing, as in factories, and partly by a collapse in housing construction. In fact, housing starts hit just 1.2 million, which is down a third in 2 years, and happening despite record house prices that should be driving a nationwide boom, but are not, because the Fed is trying to strangle the economy with rate hikes so Washington can keep spending. As for the recession, after they revised 800,000 jobs into oblivion last month, this 500,000 drop is raising concerns that we are already in recession. That drove expectations for a big rate cut by the Fed at their next meeting on September 18th. Markets are now expecting a 50 basis point cut, meaning 0.5%. Now, in the past 50 years, that has only happened in the lead-in to recession. But don't worry, Jerome Powell is telling us everything is fine and the soft landing is nigh. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained.com. Gold and Bitcoin jumped on the report, suggesting more inflation, perhaps from soaring deficits that recessions cause. I mentioned in a previous video to expect between $3 and $4 trillion deficits once the recession hits in force. Meanwhile, stocks took the 500,000 drop in stride, grimly resigned to recession, but grabbing those dimes in front of steamrollers while they can, bolstered perhaps by some free cash from Fed rate cuts. As for the real economy, with the election just 2 months away, the timing couldn't be worse for Cackles. Jerome Powell will be keeping that in mind these next 2 Fed meetings, helping his friends, but historically we're way past the point where Fed cuts make a difference. They've made their bed, now they get to lie in it, with the media presumably doing everything they can to gaslight Americans how they may not have a job, but everybody else.
I didn't know anything about the VP candidate, Tim, and so I did some digging last week. I got the data last Friday. He is not a good manager. If you look at his stewardship of his state, Minnesota, it's been not good. And I'll tell you how I measure it. Look, and don't people say, oh, you're partisan, you're partisan. No, I'm not. I'm looking at the track record of an individual who came into a state and wiped out job creation. He wiped out job creation in professional, in manufacturing, in accounting, in every subcategory you look at. Those jobs moved to South Dakota and North Dakota. The South Dakota job rate right now is 4 times that of Minnesota. Minnesota only creates jobs in services that are funded by the government, healthcare and social services. Every other sector is in decline. He's also added a surcharge of 1%, 100 basis points, on top of 9.8% taxes on individuals that are retiring. And of course they're leaving the state in droves. And he's the best governor for Texas, for Florida, for North and South Dakota, but not for Minnesota.
I mean, he's not wrong. He's not wrong at all.
There's another one because about New York is pretty much an abandoned land. Everyone's getting out because of stuff like that.
Well, I mean, New York is an absolute hole. It's a travesty what they've done to that state. But the problem is they keep voting for it. They keep voting for the Governor Hateful Kate. And
New York City votes for it.
It's so that I was about to, you got to me on that point. It's the cities that are fracturing, just like in Minnesota. It's Minneapolis that dominates the state, and so most of that's what I mean. Minneapolis, mini Somalia, whatever you want to call it, that dominates the state, and the rest of these people have to live under it. They have to live under the tyranny of the cities, and that's there's got to be a reevaluation of federalism at the local level and how much impact cities should have. I almost feel like states should go to an electoral college format at the local level where, however, cities are given 2 votes, whatever the case may be. So that way it's more even, because right now the straight Democratic way of voting at the local level is destroying, because the Democrats have monopolized it.
Yeah, just think to me, when the Constitution was put together, there's 4 million people in these United States. If you want to put everything together, was the state of Alabama probably has 4 million?
Yep. I mean, Rhode Island has 1. Rhode Island has 1 million people. So
how is the population of New York City? 8 million?
New York City, 6. New York
million?
City itself is last time I checked, it was 6 million people.
Yeah.
So.
You're not gonna New York, the people in Syracuse and things like that. Bill Kaufman talks about that. We're enslaved to New York City. That's why the Iroquois state wants to come, but they got to break away from New York City, let them do whatever they want, and it'll be a different. It's like California. They want to get the northern guys want to get out of California. People in Oregon want to move into Idaho. It's the same thing. You don't want to. Seattle runs there. Portland, Oregon. Portland's running Oregon. Seattle's running Washington. LA, San Francisco's running California. You get no say. It's you're in a tyranny of a place that you have no representation, and then there's no way for you to get out unless you somehow either get in, and which should be the way to do it. Get in and try to get involved and try to tell kind of like unplug them from the matrix in a sense. But a lot of people don't want to do that. Some people just don't. It's not their corporate, cup of tea. And yeah, I mean, if Alabama at 4 million could, if the U.S. at 4 million could be okay back then, you think a state like Alabama at 4 million could run its own? Or
I mean, if you look at how Alabama is being run right now under Sanders, it's actually doing some pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah.
So as you were saying,
but it goes back into got to get smaller. We can't this big thing. It goes into the abortion issue. I mean, here's Trump. I mean, this isn't abortion, but if it plays.
If you win in November, can you commit to prioritizing legislation to make childcare affordable? And if so, what specific piece of legislation will you advance?
Well, I would do that, and we're sitting down. I was somebody, we had Senator Marco Rubio, and my daughter Ivanka was so impactful on that issue. It's a very important issue. But I think when you talk about the kind of numbers that I'm talking about, that because look, child care is child care. It's couldn't, you know, there's something, you have to have it. In this country, you have to have it. But when you talk about those numbers compared to the kind of numbers that I'm talking about by taxing foreign nations at levels that they're not used to, but they'll get used to it very quickly. And it's not going to stop them from doing business with us, but they'll have a very substantial tax.
It goes on for another minute, but the point of it is
he just goes on. He just kind of talks. So.
The point of it. What kind of flavor lemon juice you have to use for the see where child care is in the Constitution? I mean, when did that become the function of decentralized government to do that? If a state wanted to do some kind of state child, okay,
whatever, yeah.
DC, now you want New York? I want you to tell us how you're going to do child care. That's not the correct answer. Would have been DJT. Would have been that's not my power to do that. You take care of your own kids. That's
yeah.
I will make sure.
Or maybe say something where, you know, we don't want to do a lot, but we can do some ways. We can do some child tax credits, blah blah blah, at the federal level. But we're going to leave a lot of that to the states.
We will work to end the federal income tax. There you go.
Yeah, there you go. That would be fantastic. Yeah. Here you go. Here's all my votes. Here's all. I'll vote twice. I don't give a crap.
Just for that. I mean, you talk about a pay raise. That that terrible thing that got swiped in the Constitution. I don't know how that. You talk about a stupid amendment that I don't know how people didn't burn down towns back then. I mean, but yeah, look at it. If you're not, that's one reason you don't get paper checks anymore because you can't see how much they stole from you when you get it. You're like, holy cow, they took half my money. Yeah. you can't see that anymore. Now they just direct deposit and tell you, oh, there you're good. You don't even think twice.
Yeah. No, the fact is, yeah, people don't they don't ever have to realize until tax time, which is why they make such a big deal about the money you're getting back.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you don't have to think about, oh, here's your tax returns back. And we made that point back in April. It's like nobody goes, so you stole how much from me that this is what you're giving me?
Yes,
wait, no,
you're coming back, but they tell you
it's not even all of your money. It's probably a quarter of the money they stole from you. Then they give you like $5,000 back, and everybody freaks out. Oh yeah,
they gave me money. No,
yeah, they gave me money. No, that's money they stole from me. I think I saw somebody on Twix, which means it had to be true. The maximum amount of money you put in per year via Social Security, I think, is like $10,000.
Mm-hmm.
If you were able to take that money and put it into, I'm not saying it's a great thing, but like the market, right? If you put it into an IRA or some kind of mutual account or some kind of high interest savings, that could be up to $32,000 after you save for enough time. So the fact that they promise you a pittance for taking money out of your account for Social Security, people are not financially literate enough to understand that the Social Security shouldn't exist. I know the old people that have paid for it for their entire life want it, and there's that whole conversation, but let me opt out of it now. Let me keep my money, and I'll start investing it, and I'll be fine.
Well,
I'm old enough. You know, I'm at an age where if you let me get out of Social Security now, I'll get out of it, and then I'll take care of myself and let everybody else deal with that.
It was always fun. Remember the Tea Party movement? It was everyone was going, we don't want socialism, but don't touch my social Security and Medicare. I go, wait, so you're against government programs, but you want your government program? We're not a serious people in a sense. We talk one side, but then we won't even think about what we want. It's kind of like, well, since we're talking about pro-life, here's DeSantis on the Megyn Kelly show. I don't know how long ago.
Well, clearly the states have. I mean, I think the states have the primary jurisdiction over it. I do think
they do, but if there's a federal law, that's going to change.
Well, I think there is a federal interest, but I think the reality is that the country's divided on it. You're not going to see Wisconsin mimic what Texas has,
which is an argument against a federal law.
You're not going to see Pennsylvania mimic what Georgia has. Well, but I mean, we're divided. I mean, are these things like on the potential thing? I haven't seen Congress move that. I don't have much confidence that Congress is going to do anything meaningful in this regard. And so in a federalist system, you have different opinions and that stuff gets filtered out. But clearly, right now, you are going to see different states go in different directions.
He can't say a better answer on that one. How do you? I mean, people don't like it because the emotion part of it. I got into an argument with a friend of mine who's I did another show with back in the day, and he's a anarchist in a sense, but he wants a federal thing. Again, name one federal law that's ever worked in your favor like this. It hasn't. But because we made everything childcare now, let's nationalize childcare. Let's nationalize this. You're not going to be able to get that guy that mentioned at the beginning with the Georgia thing, he was upset about the Georgia laws. He don't live in Georgia.
Yep.
So that's the thing. All right, you don't like what's going on in Georgia. You're in, I don't know where he was. He had UCLA in his thing, but he's not from Cali. I say you're in California. You're triggered by Georgia. And guess what? You don't live in Georgia.
Yeah.
If Georgia people want to change Georgia stuff, then it's on Georgia people. If California wants to do it, do you do that to Venezuela? No. Do you do that to Ireland? No. You don't do that to Italy? No. I mean, everyone's all ramping up. Or we got to, great. It's a good thing to be able to end baby killing. Yes, not saying that. But if you go into, say, California and tear that out or something like that, do you think it's over?
Yeah.
Arrington brought that up about if you change the law without changing hearts, you make things worse.
Because it's going to get used against us.
Yeah.
That's the big thing nobody understands. It's all so short term. And they need to understand the reason why we're warning is because we didn't do the work of changing hearts and minds when Roe was in effect. So when Roe was removed, we thought that all you needed to do was get rid of Roe, and then the clouds would part, chariots would come down, the petals would rain from heaven. And then we looked around and we went, yeah, most people don't agree with us because we're getting the brakes beaten off us at every single level because we didn't put the work in at the state level. I know people watch a show from its inception. We are beating this dead horse we're like 6 feet into the ground on this, but it doesn't matter. But if we don't work to change hearts and minds at the local level, put your national abortion ban in, 10 years, it's going to get flipped on you. It's going to get flipped on you, and it's going to get rammed down your throats, and you're going to go, oh, why is the federal government? Because you let them. Anyway.
No, yeah, 100%. It won't even 10 to be 4 years. But he said something, I can't remember what you just said on that had me think of that. But because I think I looked at Mark's thing about the 100 million people working in this country, and I look at the wording again. No, Mark, love you, man. No offense to which that this isn't a blast to you, but that mindset right there. In this country, again, this is not you see people talk about this country. It's not. You get that figured out, then all this, we can fix a lot of this problems underneath. When anybody says they're for a federal solution, they're morons. They don't understand what that means. It's that I was talking to Brian McClanahan yesterday because I'm trying to put together this symposium online about decentralization. What is it? What are the terms? Because hey, everyone says we're Thomas. Let's be precise in our wording. What is a country? What is a nation? What is this? What is a federal republic? Because they had this thing, they're coming out with this big party thing, save the republic. You got all these big name guys, and it was like, well, technically that's not right either, because France, a single entity, is a republic. France, say you put France, Italy, something like that. Now you get that's a federal republic. Now, like we are, we're a federal republic. Republics all over. What's the flag on California? The Republic of California. You have flags that literally say the Republic of blah blah blah. Sometimes we joke, say we're in the People's Republic of, and
even like Pennsylvania, Virginia, they're commonwealths.
Commonwealths. Texas, they call it the Republic of Texas.
The Republic of Texas. If you tell somebody in Virginia, it's the state of Virginia. If they know their history, like it's the Commonwealth of Virginia or the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So it's a little different than any. Of course, now that's
but you can't have the Republic of Texas and the Republic. That's the two different. You got to pick one. What is what? One's not the same as the other. Obviously, you can't use the same word. Hey, that's a guy and that's a girl. You're talking to the same person. It can't be both. It's law of principle of non-contradiction. It can't be that way. But we're lazy in our terms because we've just been conditioned to think this way. And especially if you're not in the South, especially it's plenty down here too. It's not, not like that's but when you start talking to somebody down here, it clicks. They really grasp that after you talk to them. You talk about it because that guy, the California guy that's upset in California, or you see anybody online or upset at Georgia, hey, we want Georgia to change. That's the puritanical Yankee idea. It's the Northeast Puritan idea of we want you to live like us. Abbeville
Well, I
Institute has
mean-
that Virginia First video. Check that out. They explain everything in there right now. I'll try to do. I'm thinking about maybe I'll do some kind of podcast leading up to the symposium idea. But yeah, it's this mindset. We got to force you to live like we. So in a sense, we can do that too. And the pro-life disunity thing. That's why I brought that in the title of this. You know, Colorado has this amendment coming out that they're going to try to put the abortion issue on and make taxpayers pay for it. Guess what Pro-Life Inc. stunk at? There was a push for personal, what was it, the personhood amendment in Colorado?
Yep.
It got submarined by pro-lifers. Even they were telling the groups were telling the bishops that don't do it, don't go for this. Hey, good job, guys. Now you got this, which you'll end up getting in because Pro-Life Inc. is so disunified. And some of them are just about the cash. My wife's talked about that told me they just care about money. That's what she was saying. It goes back into politics. Dr. Paul said that long ago when in an interview he asked, why were all your pro-life bills getting knocked down? He goes, well, if abortion's ended, because he was 100% pro-life across the board, he goes, if abortion's ended, and these guys say that they're pro-lifers, what are they going to run on? They just run on, we'll get abortion taken care of. Just like people right now, like Trump, I will get rid of Obamacare. What did he do? He didn't do anything about Obamacare. So again, Lindsey Graham wanted it back up so they could get it. And they weren't going to do anything for it. It's just so that, hey, we lost our money pot. Let's bring it back in so we can make some more of it so we could win more elections. That's all it was.
That's any of those, whether it's guns, abortions, whatever the case may be. Any of your, I love GOA, Gun Owners of America, FPC. They're great organizations. But in the end, if gun control ends as an issue, they're out of a job.
Yeah.
If abortion is gone at the federal level, they're out of a job. And it has to be playing somewhere in the background for them where it's like, yeah, we want abortion gone, but you know, there's one group like abortion abolitionists. They call themselves abortion abolitionists, and they're like, we want it gone. And the day it's gone, we'll pack up and leave because our job's done. But that they're not right to life, which is kind of weird. Like Texas right to life. All these people, if it goes away tomorrow, what are these lawyers going to do?
Mm-hmm.
What are they, you know, and you know what, that's where this stuff comes up too. The IVF stuff comes up. And so, yeah, they could transition to that stuff, but
she brought up before. There are other life issues of euthanasia and assisted suicide.
Yeah, she's 100%.
And guess and we were flawed on the states like Washington State ended up doing the assisted suicide. Oregon did that whole mercy killings and all that, whatever they call it, and nice kabuki names and all. Again, we aren't doing our jobs at a local level. We brought that up. How many times we bring that up? We want the president or elected monarch, which DJT's in town here where I'm at. They're closing down most of the interstate on a Friday afternoon from 2:30 to 7. They say find alternative route. You know how bad the interstate. I don't leave because of this. The interstate is so bad. It's so backed up. You're on there for 20 minutes just to go, 100 yards sometimes. You're closing down that because he's at some kind of private group. Again, we have an elected monarch. We have elected kings. We have elected rulers. We want centralized authority. When I was talking with Clancy, he talks about this because it's hard to convince Catholics this because we're a centralized religion in a sense because it's Pope top down, but it's just like that idea. Diocese. You have diocese who answer the Pope. It's like subsidiarity. It's the same idea. It's not like, you and I, we have to let you go right to the Pope on things. It's a breakdown of authority all the way down. Like in the diocese, your bishop's the Pope of your diocese. And that I bring up that side by side that Marshall brought up years ago. It's like this brilliant thing of Italy had all these dioceses, tons. Because you think about Alphonsus riding his donkey to all his parishes. He couldn't do that if it was like here, Diocese of Charlotte or Diocese of Charleston, for example, it's a little bit easier. It's the entire state of South Carolina is the diocese. Now think about riding a donkey from one side to the other. I know like in Colorado, they did that in the beginning. The first bishop rode a horse with a charter behind him so you could say mass on the back of it all the way down to New Mexico. And the Diocese of Colorado then, because it was just new, was from San Francisco all the way down to Colorado into parts of Utah down to New Mexico before it got broken up and smaller and smaller and smaller. How come we don't have that smaller and smaller? I mean, here, 50 years ago, that's why we had a convention last week, was because it's the 50th anniversary of the Diocese of Charlotte, because North Carolina used to be one big diocese. Then they split it in half. We did just like that.
You'd be
You can
shocked at
split
how
it
big
down
the diocese
further and
are.
further and further. The same principle exists for a political sense of it. Why do you want this thing so massive? You cannot, like a bishop, can a bishop really control an entire landmass of that big? Too many parishes, too many this, too many. You're not an effective ruler in a sense. You're not an effective governor in a sense at that level. You got to break it down and smaller and smaller. Yeah. And if we did that here, obviously you'd end up canceling out a lot of the bad bishops. You end up having a lot of better ones because you don't have that many. But again, in politics wise too, you do the same thing. Maybe you got some guy that you know that would be great running for office, but he doesn't, it just doesn't appeal to me because I don't want to. Even though that's kind of like the order of the Cincinnatus. He didn't want to either, and they brought him up to run, and he ruled for a little bit, and they gave back. That's what Washington was basically based on after, in a sense. But it's got to be the smaller thing, which is way too big. It's out of scale. If anybody says, hey, this country, okay, fine, you're really out of scale. 320 million people to
that's not even 320. It's more, but that's just the base number. But your point is not. It doesn't diminish your point. It's still too many. It's still too big. I mean,
even depending on what state it is, way too many. Break the thing up.
34 million people in Texas. Way too big.
Way too big. Way too big. Bigger is not better.
You would be shocked at how big the Diocese of Austin goes from Austin, Texas to Waco, and that's at least a 2-hour drive. And it expands out. It's way too big. And yeah, Texas probably should be broken up into 5 smaller states for an effective government, because it's just, there's way too many people at this point. Of course, if I did that, I would be stuck in the state that, or the republic that has Austin in it, so I'd have to move. But either way, that's a different point.
And then that's the thing. That's federalism right there.
Yeah.
If you don't like where you're at, change it or move.
Yep.
Instead of, let's try to see if I get my authoritarian figure to implement whatever I want on these people right here. Kind of like if someone asks, hey, do you vote? And well, if you don't vote, you can complain. If you do vote, and say your boy comes in and does some bad things, you have no complaints. Because hey, before I get to that point, well, take that back. I'll go ahead and get to that point, because everyone's talking about, we got to get this and it'll be fine. Okay. Well, here's the guy behind the guy for VIP. Or the VP.
Almost everyone in America is horrified.
Palantir. Peter Thiel runs Palantir. Here's the CEO on it, but Peter Thiel is Palantir.
By the dramatic rise of anti-Semitism, which does not receive the reaction it deserves, and most Americans would like to see leadership on the Middle East, on bringing hostages home, especially American hostages, and clear statements.
Yeah.
It's about discrimination, even discrimination against Jews.
Okay.
It's acting up. But anyway, he basically comes on to a thing that we got to actively get out there and shut down anybody that talks bad about the state of Israel. And I said the state of Israel. Isn't that a country? Yes, it's the country of Israel. State of Israel. You hear that all the time. But that's Peter Thiel. Again, that's the guy who Thiel owns Vance. Here's DJT. Hopefully it will play. Maybe there is. Where did I put it?
Wait. We will finally complete the biometric entry-exit visa tracking system, which we need desperately.
Remember this?
For years, Congress has required biometric entry-exit visa tracking systems, but it has never been completed. The politicians are all talk, no action, never happens, never happens. Hillary Clinton, all talk. Unfortunately, when there is action, it's always the wrong decision. Do you ever notice?
Of course, it was back during Trump-Pence.
In my administration, we will ensure that this system is in place. And I will tell you, it will be on land, it will be on sea, it will be in air. We will have a proper...
You gonna
in the moon?
Yeah. Oh, wait. It's going to be what now? Everybody's wait a minute. What did you just say?
Yeah.
That's digital ID. And under the guise of, hey, this is a problem coming in. And that's the whole idea that you see Jack out there talking about. We need the safe idea. The safe. We talked about this before. That's the idea. You can have our guys go applaud. Yeah. Oh wait, that's do what now? You want to? Huh? And it's kind of what Derek Bros has brought up. Here's the. Oh, by the way, here's that impact babies thing. Whether Biden, Harris, or Trump, digital IDs are coming to America. Coming to America.
Yep, they are, man.
States are beginning to adopt digital driver's license. We talked about this last month. Will Trump's biometric entry-exit system be as controversial as his travel ban? Remember that? This was back in 2018. And we banned people because of Rona. By the way, Rona surge. Anyway, we may have to return to 2020 pandemic levels, but it goes into the digital ID again. That comes in. Go ahead, vote, and then say, "Oh yes, you guys are terrible for not voting." At least I didn't vote for that.
Right. That is unfortunately where it is. And so yeah, that's kind of where we're at today. So
but the level of political thing is
his appearance at the DNC that I wanted to ask you about, endorsing Kamala Harris. I think we do have a clip of it if we could just play.
What's up, everybody? Stephen Curry here. I know you all know I played for the Golden State Warriors, but man, what a great honor it was to represent Team USA and go out there and win that gold medal at the Olympics this summer. And that unity on and off the court reminded us all that together we can do all things and continue to inspire the world. That's why I believe that Kamala, as president, could bring that unity back and continue to move our country forward. This is about preserving hope and belief in our country, making sure families can be taken care of during the.
You're not really good at reading off a script there.
What was the reaction to that, and why was that so important for you to do?
The reaction was great. There's also obviously a lot of noise in terms of anytime you step into this lane, you know it's going to be received, in a lot of different ways. And for me, it's all about creating conversations that are about being decent human beings first and foremost. I think we've lost
unless
that
he doesn't like you.
Where obviously endorsing Kamala is important for me, for my family.
Why? What are the issues you care about most?
Say what?
What are the issues you care about?
I just know from especially women's rights and thinking about what's at stake with this election, and understanding like we need to be in a position where women have the right to choose what's right for them, and that's at the top of the list for me. I have amazing women in my life who've been a huge inspiration to me. But knowing Kamala and having been around her
for 20 minutes,
I understand she's qualified for this job. She's, I think, representing what it means to be a great leader and being a decent human being in terms of representing our country the right way. So it's an easy choice for me, but to be able to have be in a situation where you can be a part of the DNC, do a video like that, let people know where I feel like, but foster positive conversations, through it all. I think that's what our country needs.
I mean, it's a word salad of, I have no idea what I'm talking about right now.
Words out of why you don't listen to athletes about anything.
It's just...
Because they're all part of this. They're all part of the system, bud. Yeah, Steph, whatever. He's a part of the system.
It's really supposed to be my name is spelled exactly like it is. And people used to, when I was in Uber, people go, Stephen? I go, no. He screwed up the Stevens.
He messed it up for everybody. Yeah. So that's where it is, man. And it's no bueno to see this. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. And this guy's inflated. And this is the same guy that as soon as they start putting poor people near his $30 million property, he's like, oh no, they gotta go. They can't be around here. So
yeah, his family here is Dell. I remember going to a Dell camp, Dell Curry camp back in the day in Spartanburg, and I think he probably was there too because he used to be with his dad all the time. They used to be a real tight family, and then I think Dell and his wife divorced or something recently. But yeah, you go to California and you kind of drink the water in there. I mean, he's in Golden State. I mean, he's across the Golden State Bridge playing hoops, so it's in the middle of crap town. And so he's drunk the Kool-Aid that's out there. And Cop Mala, she was a Californian too. So yeah,
but he whatever.
I would say shut up and dribble because I like him, but It's so bad.
He's one of the greatest shooters of all time. It's just like, dude, and he's not doing it when he's playing basketball, so he's more than entitled to his opinion and all that nonsense. But it's just tough to listen to guys, even if he had some kind of sense, like a decent policy position on it, or back it up, even if it doesn't make sense. But he's just like, good things, good person, leadership. What are the other words?
I just want to be able to women to choose, because that's important for my. Choose what? Coke, Pepsi, Sprite.
Dude, you're killing off your future fans.
Well, and don't forget, his coach is literally an airhead. I liked Kerr when he was playing with the Bulls. I loved him, but now he's a coach. He's just like a white LeBron in a sense, except he just not as big as a platform. He was out of the Olympics even talking, using DNC talking points. Going, dude, just coach. That's all you got to do. Don't have to. Again, that's the Yankee Puritan thing. He'll be out there in California talking about how we got to get rid of guns in Georgia. Like, dude, to go run for Georgia, go run in the Senate for Georgia, and stop coaching. Because it's using the platform. It's, never let a crisis go to waste. Take advantage of the platforms.
Yeah, I agree in all of that. And I think that's a good place to kind of end today's show and move on to our cry room and saint of the week. So I don't know. Do you want me to go first? All right, cry room.
I don't want to take yours.
Oh yeah, I absolutely do not want that. And so I'm gonna go with the cry room first. And sorry, folks, it's Linkin Park. Linkin Park with coming back to the stage and not even going with a different band name. They brought back Linkin Park and they decided to DEI it with a woman. And yep, she's replacing Chester. And I don't know if you're all gonna be able to hear this. And if I had to hear it, you have to hear it. So,
but if you play it, we might get dinged for.
Oh, all right. I'm not gonna play it. Fine.
If you know the song.
She's no good. She's not very good. And I'm sorry. It's not her fault. I'm trying to be good on this. It is not her fault that she is not Chester, but they should have just come out with a different band name and then they could have done some covers and that would have been fine. This is like nails on a chalkboard. This is an in-service or disservice to Chester, who wrote these songs, and it's a disservice to this girl who's trying to sing these songs. So that's my cry room. Sorry, guys.
Like a karaoke band now.
Yeah, you just can't do it at this point. My saint of the week, safe travels to Paul Harrell, who died of pancreatic cancer, who is a Chad up until the end, who made a video a couple weeks ago and said, release it upon my death. And it's garnered the most views he's ever had. This guy was one of the original OGs and probably one of the most nuanced when it came to the science of firearms and how to use them and how to safely use them and how to generally pass on knowledge. And he is a legend in the gun tuber YouTuber community, and it's a shame his life was taken too soon, and he will be missed. So requiesce in patre. Eternal rest grant unto Paul, her Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon him. May he rest in peace. Amen. So that's my saint of the week and my cry room for this week.
I didn't know who that was because I was thinking, was that at first I'm going, is that the guy that had the scope on backwards?
No. That's Paul is he's a legend. He was a dentist by profession. And this was, he also served in the military, but some of the best YouTube videos. If you had an actual question about something, like what kind of caliber should I use, or what kind of this, or, what gun is good for home defense, he would take you through the different options, and he would never tell you what was good or bad. He would always say, this is just my opinion, do your own thing. And he was a legend. So, we lost.
I'll go with the cancer survivor too as the saint of the week because of the reasons.
Australian supermodel Elle Macpherson has been blasted by medical experts as irresponsible after revealing she refused chemotherapy for breast cancer and opted for what she called a holistic approach. In her new memoir, the 60-year-old said she ignored doctors who suggested an aggressive treatment plan when she was diagnosed 7 years ago, including chemo, radiation, hormone therapy, and a reconstruction. Instead, she only had a lumpectomy.
My big issue is that celebrities can have a very big voice, and I really urge people out there to listen to the medical team around them and follow that advice.
The fashion star says she's in remission.
The hate you not listening to their is goes back to 2020. After 2020, do you trust any dot? I know I don't.
I don't at all.
I mean, right when I saw that, I'm going, yeah, that makes sense. There's holistic stuff that you can, herbs and things that help that.
I think we've talked about this before. The only country in the world that calls dementia is us. Everybody else, it's type 3 diabetes. So just think about that. The dementia patients, they're called dementia for dementia drugs and all these other things. And every other country, it's, hey, you have type 3 diabetes. You need to get off the sugar. And you need to bring your insulin levels down and help your natural cholesterol get back into your brain. But here we're like, nope, here's some drugs. Here's this, here's that. You can keep on eating the crap food and all this other stuff and keep your sugar spiked to the roof. But here's a drug that helps. Oh, that drug didn't work. I'm so sorry. Blah, blah, blah. And so, yeah, the more you dive into all of it, it's just.
Well, just like that. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I did that thing on watermelon seeds. Watermelon seeds actually help with type 2 diabetes.
Still
what is
can't
the
find
one
any.
you can't get at a store? Can't find seeded watermelons right now. You got to get it on top of it with the male fertility and all that. And there's actually herbs, fruits, and veggies that actually help with dementia. I got some growing in the back right now. I mean, or thermoflu. You know, thermoflu. You get the gumballs, the trees with little gumballs things.
Yep.
You put that in with some Everclear and let it sit there for a few hours. You got your own thermoflu, the original thermoflu right there. So it's
Lou, go down that rabbit hole. Dementia and type 3 diabetes. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. And speaking of, I don't know if you guys saw this, is not the main one, but just because everyone was talking about the Tucker thing, here's, Tom Woods put up, here's 10 years ago, Pat Buchanan and I, we hashed out this Churchill thing because, the whole Tucker interview, I guess everyone's losing their minds over it. Yeah. Check out the interview that Tom did with Buchanan on his book from 2008. But I'll throw the crime room, Matt, I was drinking this beforehand. I hate raw milk, Walsh. You talking about a stupid claim that he did. And rightfully a lot of people, I saw Thomas Massey even giving him a little smack a few times going, and he don't look like he's one to go, you know what? I'm going to check this out a little bit more. Now, he doubled down all the time. He's one of those pride things that I'm not going to, you're not going to tell me I'm wrong. You're all a bunch of, he's a theistic evolutionist I remember he did a video about how weird we are for thinking that the world was created in 6 days of creation. And everyone's wrong except him. And one of those things, you didn't think this out too far. And then the whole raw milk thing going, really? You went there? I mean, that's probably the best thing you can have. As people were saying, how many people, thousands of years. And yet, no, we need to have the dead milk. And which people are like that going down to the farm. I was hoping that they had some kind of Matt Walsh special going on. Mm-hmm. And it says on there, if you're lactose intolerant, you can drink this because it's live milk, real milk.
Or if you're lactose intolerant, you can drink goat milk.
Yeah.
Goat milk is my wife is lactose, and that we were introduced to goat milk and like, this is amazing. It actually tastes just as good and all this other kind of stuff and blah, 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 blah. But, whatever.
I'll go down after about 20 minutes, 25 minutes to the farm and get eight gallons for 2 weeks. And, well, hey, Mark, check out the website, Find Raw Milk. It's called the Find Raw Milk website. And depending on what state you are, it will show you, like South Carolina, you can't swing a dead cat without hitting someone who has it. In North Carolina, because of state laws, because it's one of the work your state, federalism, they banned it, but you can buy it for not human consumption. So because of that, here, a lot of the people that were fighting for it pretty much just said, you know what, forget it. We'll still sell it under this animal consumption thing, probably because they know that if it gets out, they lose a lot of their sales because more people would open it up left and right. But yeah, I know a guy that sells real yogurt, real cheese, all that stuff. It's just, he's a little bit further away. But yeah, look at realmilkfinder.com. You'll find something somewhere around you at least.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there you go, folks. That's it.
Real raw milk finder. I'm sorry. Not real milk finder. Yeah.
All right, folks. There you go. That's your health advice for the end of the week too, from both of us, and hopefully you'll take that as salted. We are not doctors. Please, this is not constitute medical advice. Thank you for hanging out.
Entertainment purposes only.
That's right. Yep. Thank you for hanging out with us this episode of News from the Pew. Please like, subscribe, and share the News from the Pew. We will talk to you all next week. God bless and Viva Cristo Rey.